Meander to your Dander is a pretty decent episode of 2.5 Men. This is the 11th episode of the 5th season. It's directed by James Widdoes, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And it starts off with Alan and his date in bed. They're cuddling, they rotate, they cuddle again, and once the date leaves, this is a woman called Donna, Alan is talking with Charlie about his sex life, and Alan's very defensive, very, very defensive, and ultimately confesses that he thinks his sex life is boring. He wants to break it off with Donna because they're just not gelling the way he'd want them to. We then have Charlie and Jake watching boxing, and Jake was in this quite a bit actually, and I really liked what Jake brought to this. And then Alan comes in and Jake leaves the room. He's not in a good mood with Charlie, and Alan reveals that he didn't break it off with Donna. He tried, but he couldn't. So Charlie gives him some advice, and it's really quite sweet. I really love the moments when we get to see this brotherly bond between Charlie and Alan. That's not to say Charlie didn't make any jokes at Alan's expense, but I like it when he actually gives him some potentially really useful advice, and it's really lovely to see. And then Alan's getting ready to meet her, and he reveals that he's actually picking her up. And I have to say, that was an immediate bad move, because as Charlie points out, if you pick her up, you have to drive her home. But if you're going to be breaking up with her at the restaurant, that's going to be really, really awkward. But nevertheless, he goes to pick her up, and they come up with a new plan. And actually, Donna wants to stay in for the night. And she's got fondue, which is hot, and there are pointy forks, and Alan is terrified for his safety. Meanwhile, back at the house, Jake gives a pretty animated description of Snakes on a Plane, which I rather liked. Really solid film. And then we're back with Donna and Alan. We do jump around quite a bit in this episode, but it never felt forced. I never felt like we were jumping too soon. So we do go back and forth quite a bit, but it works really well. And it turns out that Donna was basically feeling the same way as Alan about the relationship. And I love that, because it just goes to show that you never know how your partner is feeling, which can be a bad thing. But it also means that if you just talk to them, you might actually be on the same page. And the only way you're going to find out is if you're open and honest with how you're feeling. And this worked well for Alan. Well, temporarily. She did also use words like uninspired and lackluster, a little bit insulting for Alan, but it gets worse because they accidentally poured this scalding hot coffee on Alan's trousers, and we'll come back to them in a moment. Charlie and Jake have then gone out to eat, and I really like this scene. It's quite a brief scene, but it was just the perfect length, and it was quite sweet as well. And Charlie has decided to be Jake's wingman. Jake is attracted to a young girl who's there with her mother, and Charlie decides to walk up to the mother. Obviously, he's attracted to her, and basically say that his nephew has taken an interest in his daughter, in her daughter rather. Would it be okay if he came over and said hello? And honestly, the mother, some people might disagree with this, but I think the mother was in the wrong. It's not that she absolutely had to say, yes, sure, come and say hi, but would it really have killed her to spare probably less than 5 minutes so Jake could say hello? I mean, the whole concept of, maybe this is a generational thing, but I think the whole concept of walking up to somebody random at a table in a restaurant or a cafe, not when you're at a bar, that's different, but walking up to a mother and daughter so you can hit on the daughter is a little bit peculiar anyway. But nevertheless, would it have killed her to say, yes, sure, come and say hi? Maybe they'd exchange phone numbers and they'd get on with their meals. And she just wasn't very friendly, wasn't very approachable, and I kind of didn't like her. Maybe I would have said yes in that situation because I'd feel bad about saying no, but either way, I just thought, was it really that big of a deal? So I didn't love her. And Charlie's getting really annoyed by this as well, and the daughter goes to get a refill from the drinks machine. Charlie tells Jake to go and do the same, and he gets pepper sprayed. I think it was pepper spray. He got sprayed in the face anyway. So not a great day for Charlie. But Jake was really smooth. He's a smooth talker, and it was a nice moment. So I really enjoyed this scene. It's definitely, I think, the perfect length, and it was very, very entertaining. And then we have, well, the penultimate scene with Alan and Donna. Donna is actually considering staying with Alan. She's maybe changed her mind by this point. But Alan says, no, it's run its course. It's better if we just end things. he's about to leave and he hears the click, which he thinks is a gun, thanks to something Charlie said earlier on. It's just her lighter lighting a cigarette. And then somebody arrives at the door. And it's a woman called Georgia. And she's turned up for a three-way. Because Donna thought this would spice up her sex life with Alan. And it's too late. She's no longer willing to do this because Alan's just ended things with her. And Alan cries and goes home. And then we end with Alan and Charlie talking. And it was not a good day for either of them, needless to say. But I really enjoyed the episode. Personal highlights. Jake in general, just everything Jake brought to this, I really thoroughly enjoyed. Charlie giving Alan genuine brotherly advice. I really liked that. And the scene, obviously, with Charlie and Jake and the mother and her daughter, I loved how that played out. And the final scene with Alan and Donna and Georgia, I thought that was very well executed as well. So needless to say, I'm quite happy. I thought Meander to Your Dander was a pretty solid episode of 2.5 Men, and definitely one that I enjoyed.